And thank you everybody here for creating such an amazing feeling. Isn't it remarkable? You feel amazing? And the scientific mind in me wondered, as we were sitting here, what is it? What? That makes us feel so uplifted and expanded in this room right now. And clearly it is the invisible energy that is uplifting us all. Yet even though it's invisible, it does leave a footprint on the mind-body complex, and science can detect that footprint. In fact, if any one of us in this room were in a laboratory right now, at this very moment, scientists could tell how happy and content we were simply by looking at our brainwave activity, our heart rhythms, and our body chemistry. So even though it is indescribable, it definitely leaves a footprint. And because of this, it's my sense that at this point in history, which is remarkable considering it's 4.5 billion years, that science has become the servant of spirituality by coaxing people, by demonstrating to people the powerful and often unprecedented benefits that come from spiritual practices. It encourages people to step onto the spiritual path. Now, let me give you some. Now, how many people knew that spiritual practices have been scientifically verified to do what no medical therapy, what no treatment, and what no drug on the planet could do? Can I see a show of hands? Wow, this is a very evolved group. Very good. Very good. Now, just one example I'll give, and I'm talking about the practices that has been brought to modern times by Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. Depression, which incidentally is considered the #1 disease and the #1 brain disorder in the world, has a relatively unexciting success rate of treatment in the medical community. And a full third of all people, despite the gold standard of medical treatment, are not helped to relieve their suffering. Yet in numerous studies, it's been found to have that when Sudarshan Kriya and the accompanying breathing practices are taught to people, there is a 73 to 80% remission rate. And these are in the people who it's hardest to treat. And incidentally, for clinical anxiety, the success rate of Sudarshan Kriya is 98%. No drug on the planet can do that. And on top of that, what science also shows us is how when we merge science and spirituality, spiritual practices together, the outcomes support a better world and a better medical community. For example, our research that was recently published in the British Journal of Psychiatry, where we looked at the success rate of treating late-life depression, and for the gold standard, it was 9% over 6 months. Yet when we added when we added Sahaj Samadhi meditation, the success rate bumped up to 54%. So what does this show us? That science and spirituality, when they come together and they work together, it is only for the benefit of all of humanity. And it's not just in our minds, but it's our bodies also that are profoundly imprinted by our spiritual practices. For example, there's a hormone that all of us women, and some of the men too, it's because it has many functions. There's a well-being hormone called prolactin. When mothers are nursing their babies and they have that ooh feeling, prolactin is being produced. Now, in depressed people, it's abnormally low. Is that a surprise to anybody? No, no. Okay, and what's been found, however, is that when people learn Sudarshan Kriya from the very first session, not taking months and months to master, but from the very first session, the prolactin levels in the brain begin to increase. Now, this gives rise to a more humane style of medicine. Not only are we treating more people, but we're doing it more kindly, because right now, when all else fails in the Western world, and here in India as well, electroshock therapy is given to people, which is very painful. People lose large portions of their memory, and it has to be supplemented pretty much for life with drug therapy. And they don't even know why running painful electrical current through somebody's brain produces relief from depression. But what the speculation is is that it increases prolactin in the brain because in an attempt to soothe itself from the severe pain, the brain increases its production of prolactin, and as a byproduct, the depression is relieved. So we can see very clearly how when we marry science and spirituality, the best of the best comes. And it's also in our bodies. It's found with for example, again, Sudarshan Kriya, because this is my main focus of research, we find that the immune system is stronger, our brains work better, and our brains are younger from doing spiritual practices. The human brain ages at 5% per decade by the time we hit 40. And it starts, other than the 19-year-olds who I sat with this morning, most of us already have deteriorating, well, not us, but people like us who don't do spiritual practices, their brains start deteriorating, starting at age 26, 27. And it's been found that meditative practices can slow, stall, and even reverse these age-related degenerations. And for the heart also begins to be younger and stronger. And our brains, the brains of meditators, are equivalent to people 30 years their junior, which is quite remarkable. And what I'd like to end with is, to me, one of the most exciting scientific discoveries of the power of spirituality to affect change in the world. And that is the existence of mirror neuron systems. How many people have heard of mirror neuron systems? Can I see? Okay, well, you're in for a real treat. It turns out, just as Sri Sri has been saying, and as we heard from Adriana about the field where all life exists, that the human brains are wired to hook up to each other. That there is a system in my brain called the mirror neuron system, which your brain mirrors, and your brain mirrors, and your brain mirrors, and all of our brains mirror, that any emotion or action or behavior that I have, when that part of my brain lights up, that mirror neuron system lights up in my brain, it also lights up in all of your brains if we're locked in. And we can think of these mirror neuron systems. It's the basis of empathy and other ways we understand each other, why we cry at sad movies, because of the mirror neuron systems. And you can think of it like neural Wi-Fi. A neuron is simply a brain cell. It locks us into each other. And so our emotions, it's been discovered, just like Sri Sri talks about, that our emotions are contagious, just like a cold is contagious. And while it may be uplifting and wonderful to be around Sri Sri, or everybody, every single person in this room I would take home with me, while it may be wonderful to be around people like us, it's not so valuable to be around where there's a lot of negativity and where the crowd fever and the riots begin to pick up. The value is that when we go inward and we center ourselves without doing anything, without saying one word to other people, just by our presence, as the scriptures of all major traditions have said, we bring peace to the area. And finally, as wonderful as that is, there's something even more magical. We've heard about the mathematical formulas and the laws of nature, right? Well, it turns out that human consciousness is a field in nature, just like the gravitational field and the electromagnetic field, and it operates under mathematical principles. And it has been found that when a small percentage of a population go inward and contact that inner being, the pure consciousness, it creates a field effect in the entire community. People you don't even see, people who can be 1,000 miles away from you. It creates this coherence in the field, and what happens is violence is decreased, sickness is decreased, accidents are decreased, natural disasters are decreased, positivity grows, and even the gross national product increases. So we see the value of us coming together and practicing together. We become an unstoppable army for spreading God's light. So, in conclusion, my dear sisters, and I think I see a few brothers, both science and spirituality at this point in time are pointing us in the direction of the importance of us going inward ourselves, both so that we are happier, healthier, younger, more creative, and more dynamic, and so that we can affect the people around us in the most positive way. And I think, just like you were saying, that it's a remarkable time in history, because whether somebody is an intellectual pansexual, or somebody is a spiritual monk, both traditions point everybody in the same direction, that for making a difference in the world, and even if you're just concerned about being better yourself, or being richer yourself, or being healthier yourself, everything says you must go inward. Thank you very much.